The purpose of this video is to show you how to enter a new animal in the Shelter Manager software. The Shelter Manager software is out on the internet, so the first thing we do is we open the browser. Incidentally, that's a picture of Mopsy, our middle pug. Slow browser opening. I have the browser Shelter Manager in my bookmarks, and so I go to my bookmarks, unsorted bookmarks, and the PRA Shelter Manager login. First thing that opens is the sign-on screen. The database manager will have assigned you the SM account and a username. My username is R. Hawkins. The Shelter Manager, database manager, will ask you for a password that you create, and they will enter that password into the Shelter Manager so that it'll match when you enter your own password. Okay, first screen that opens is the, obviously, opening screen on the Shelter Manager. And as I said, I'll be adjusting the camera as we go along. The place we want to start will be at the ASM icon in the upper left hand corner. You click the arrow and it shows you the various options on this screen. Obviously the one we will use is under Animals, and it would be Add New Animal. So we'll click on that, and it takes us to the screen where we will do quite a bit of our entry. The first thing we'll want to enter is the animal name. I'm going to zoom in so we can see better what we're talking about here. Okay, I'm going to use for this animal Add New Animal, and the reason for that is that we will delete this entry after this video is created. The date of birth can be entered one of two ways. If you click on the blank space, it gives you a calendar, and if you don't know the animal's date of birth, then the box to the right of the calendar, you can enter the animal's age, estimated age in years. I'm going to assume that this animal was born on January 1st, 2013. Now, how we get there is we select the drop-down arrow on the year, we scroll down to 2013, and since January is already shown, I'll click on 1 and it fills that date. We'll assume that this animal is a female. Of course, it's not a cat. We don't deal with cats. So we're going to click on the drop down box, and we're going to select one of the dog options. It can be a dog, it can be a stray dog, miscellaneous, non-shelter animal. I'm just going to select dog. And why it doesn't fill with dog there, I don't know. But on species, we'll hit the drop down box and we'll go down to dog, and that's completed the initial entry. Now, what we want to do next is hit create and edit, and that will open our next window. And our next window then contains a lot of information. I'm going to zoom back out. And you can see in the upper left-hand corner, there's the animal name. Of course, this one is strange because we said Add New Animal. But you can see also that it's filled the following information. Down here it's given a code and an animal ID. It's auto-filled the name that we selected, shows it's a female, shows that it's a dog, and the color is the color of the coat, and there are a number of options in this drop-down box. For this one, I'm going to assume that it's a pug or a pug mix, and I'm going to scroll down and select fawn. Okay, so now we've selected fawn. On the right-hand side is an entry for the size of the dog, and pugs are not large. So I'm going to select medium. And here's a note of interest here. If this is a pug mix, you can't select breed pug first, because then it won't allow you to do the crossbreed. So select the crossbreed box. We're going to assume that this is a chug, a Chihuahua pug mix. So we click that scroll down box. We scroll down to our favorite dog, which of course is a pug. We click on pug and it'll fill pug. I'm sorry, what I should have done on this one is selected the crossbreed, which is Chihuahua. So no harm, no foul. We go back up to Chihuahua, click on it, and it's done Chihuahua. Then we go to the breed, click on it, and scroll down to pug. As I said before, our favorite dog. Select pug, and now we have a Chihuahua mix, and you'll notice at the bottom of those boxes is the date of birth, which it auto-filled for from the date that we entered. The next bit of information we'll enter is under the Notes tab. So we'll go over and click on Notes, and there it opens boxes. We can enter information about markings, we can enter hidden comments, and those are comments that are only shown to those who have access to do entry in the database, or comments, and those will be shown to everyone. We're going to assume on the right hand side that this little chug is good with cats, so we click yes. Good with dogs, we'll click yes. Good with kids, you notice that it says no, unknown, or yes, we'll click yes. And house trained or house broken, and we'll also say yes on this. Because we're going to assume some things about this chug, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to assume that this poor little girl is heartworm positive. So I'm going to do HW and positive. Then I'm going to say that she's been spayed. And that's all we need to know about this little girl at this time. I'm going to go down to entry, click on entry. You notice it closes the notes and opens the entry box. I'm going to move the camera here so you can see a little bit more about what's going on. On the left hand side it says original owner. It also gives information on brought in. We usually don't enter that information. On the right hand side, you'll notice that the first item up there is date brought in, and it assumes, the software assumes, that the date brought in is the date of entry. Well, we didn't get this little girl on the date we're doing the date entry, so we click in that box, and again you get a calendar. And for this little girl, we're going to say she came to us on December the 27th, 2013. So we select 2013. We open the box and select December, and then we go to 27, and there it's December the 27th, 2013. We're going to say that the reason that this chug came to us was that the owner was unable to afford. So we'll enter that, and then down in the bottom where it says reason, we're going to enter unable to afford care. It doesn't have to be anything very elaborate. Whoops, I'm sorry, I entered that in the wrong box. So we'll delete that. Actually, what I'll do is I'll copy and paste. Or I'll cut and paste. Cut and paste. Okay, that's all the information that we have to enter for this animal in this location. So we'll click now on Health and Identification, and that brings up other information that we'll enter. We'll say that this chug is microchipped. And you notice it opens up two other boxes. Those boxes are, first, we can enter any information in here we want. My guess is we might enter the date, and you notice it drops down a calendar, and then over here would be the microchip number, but let's assume for this animal we don't have that. We'll say the animal has been altered. That means this little girl's been spayed. This would be for entering the date, but we may not have that information. Of course, it's not declawed because it's not a cat. It's heartworm tested. We may not know the date, and we have a drop-down box, and it's positive, negative, or unknown. Let's say that this little girl came in as heartworm positive because we get so many animals that are that. Special needs. This would be an animal that maybe might have a spinal problem, maybe an eye problem. We see so many of those. So this is where we could check special needs. We don't elaborate on that, but we'll elaborate on that over in the box on the right that says health problems. I'm going to uncheck that. If we have a rabies tag, then in this box right here, we would enter the rabies tag number as it appears either on the tag we have or on the paperwork that we get. Over here under health problems, for this little girl, we're going to say, let's say something like red eye. Okay. What that indicates is then this little girl is going to need a visit to the vet. We don't have any other information to enter on this animal at this time. So, in order to save the information we've got, we'll come back over here to the left side of the screen, and I'll move the camera where you can see what I'm talking about. And in a box right here, you see it says Save. If we were to close out of this without saving it, we'd lose all the information we had entered. So I'm going to click on Save. And now this animal is part of our database. I'm going to go back up here to ASM. Let me make sure that you can see it. Go back up here to ASM. I'm going to click on the arrow, and it gives us several drop-down options as you saw earlier. This time I'm going to go to Find Animal. And what I'm going to do here is show you how you would access the database to find an animal that's there. Okay, this gives us the selection box. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to type in D because I know that D is an animal in our database. I click on Search, and it gives me two options. One is D, and the other one is Raoul. Now, why both of those come up, I have no idea. But we'll move our cursor over to D, and you'll see that it underlines. I now click on that, and there's my information on D. Okay, but I now want to go back to the animal we just entered and show you how you can make changes. We'll go back up here to ASM. We'll click on that. We'll drop down to Find Animal, and again the search. And this time I'm just going to enter part of it. I'm going to enter the word new, and I'm going to search. And you see it comes up with a whole bunch of them. But you notice on the left, I'll move this so you can see it well. On the left is Add New Animal. Well, that's the lady that we just entered. So I'm going to click on Add New Animal, and it brings us back to the animal we were entering. Okay, now what I'll show you here is how we can make changes to the information. Let's decide that this little girl, fawn, really doesn't represent her good color. So we'll click on the drop down box, and I'm going to say that this little girl is black and tan, or more better, probably tan and black. Let's scroll on down, way on down, and the reason I'd say tan and black is her predominant color would be tan, but her muzzle, ears would probably be black. Good pug mix, right? A good chug. Click on that, and it's changed that to, whoops, tan and black. Okay, now, coat type corded. Well, we know that pugs aren't corded. Their coats are short. So we click on short, and we've decided this chug really isn't medium. She's probably small, so we're going to go with small. Actually, one of the drop downs there is very small, and you know that's the little ones, 5 pounds up to 10 pounds. Maybe it's a puppy. Anyway, we'll go with small on this little girl. Now, as before, we have to go back over here and make sure we save this information. If we don't save this information, it's not going to retain it. So we'll click on Save, and we have now made the entry and altered it for our little girl called Add New Animal. You'll notice in the upper left-hand corner, there's a place, Add a Photo. If we click on that, it takes us to a box where we can scroll down on in our computer and enter a picture of this animal if we happen to have one. Okay, back again. Sorry about the disruptions. Sometimes the cameras just don't want to get along. I want to go back to this screen and clarify something that I said earlier. This is the screen in which we would browse on our computer to find a picture to associate with this animal. If you look up here, right there, it says Browse. We click on that, and then we could go to any place on our computer where we had stored a picture of this animal and click on that picture and import it. Okay, to get out of this, I'll cancel. Now I want to go back up to the top of the screen. We're going to go back over to the ASM, click the drop down box, and select Find Animal. This brings us back to a screen you're familiar with. We'll click in there, and I'm going to enter D again because I want to show you something neat about the pictures. And brings up D and Raoul. Again, I have no idea why Raoul comes up. We'll go over here and we'll click on D's name, and that brings up D. One very nice feature of this is if you click in the picture, in the small picture on the database, it opens up a large picture. And isn't that a very attractive young lady? That's D. Okay, in order to close this, we do just like we do anything in Windows. We go back up to the back arrow, click on this. That takes us back to D, and what I want to do now is show you how we leave the database. If you look over here on the right hand side, near the top, in the banner, there's my name, and beside it is a drop down box. I click on the drop down box, and there are several selections there. View manual, change password, change user settings, and log out. Obviously, if we want to leave the database manager, the Shelter Manager database, then we would scroll down and click on log out. and that takes us back to the sign-on screen. That's the total of my demonstration. I hope it's been helpful, and obviously you can review it time upon time as necessary, but really the way you get totally familiar with the Shelter Manager is just work around in it and follow the process that works best for you. Thank you.